Broadcasting live from the IRSMedic studios, it's Parental Advisory. Hey, thanks for joining us on Parental Advisory. Today, we are talking about what to do when you win the lottery.
Mm-hmm.
And from my initial investigation, it seems like there's a lot of law firms and people out there giving advice about what to do when you win the lottery. But it really was sort of one layer. Sign your ticket. Yep. Make sure you put your ticket in a safe place, right, and don't tell anyone. And that was the end of it.
Right, and it's not. And I'm not saying it's not bad advice.
Oh, no.
But that's just okay. Right, exactly. Yeah. You're saying that's one layer. And then they're also giving advice that I'm going to say 99% of lottery winners probably didn't follow. Like they say, make sure you don't tell anyone.
Yes.
That's what I would want in theory. If I won the lotto, I would want that to happen. Yeah, I would love to have that. Be able to have that sort of self-control,
yes,
and not tell anyone. And that is just basically impossible. I would tell my wife, who would then tell my mother-in-law, and now
the world knows at that
point. And now,
yeah,
it's out. Yeah. So that first advice is like, okay, now let's just assume that everybody knows.
Yep.
So it's okay that you told people, and just now let's work on getting it done right.
So let's start with your mindset. So you won, yay!
Yep.
Let's talk about what's likely going to happen if you don't take action.
Right,
the first thing you think is your mind goes into, this is an inexhaustible supply of money. This is all the money in the world.
Yeah, and this is sort of what is the most dangerous, is that people don't know the scale of what money can do what, and they don't think about larger numbers on a monthly issue. For people who have been in business for themselves, they kind of have a better idea because they've seen big checks come in, big checks go out. So they get, the people who do succeed more easily at winning the lotto is people who've already had money, managed money. They've seen what happens. And so getting millions of dollars, okay, well, all right, they could put it in a scale. But if you are waged, if you just got a paycheck, and the biggest check you see is a paycheck of thousands of dollars, that's not really going to give you the right perspective of what to expect.
Yes.
We have clients who make $1 million a year, and how that can be spent. Trust me.
Yes.
Trust me on this. That can be spent. So I think you want to think of what sort of guidelines, what sort of lifestyle, what should your budget be, is really a good idea. Now, the lotteries are anywhere between, the lottos are anywhere between $1 million, and then the last Powerball was
a bajillion,
bajillion, but it was split up 3 ways, something like that. It's hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Hundreds of $1 million, that's really gonna, no matter what your lifestyle is, that's gonna be enough. The $1 million and less, that might improve your lifestyle, but not change it too much.
Yeah. I wouldn't quit my job if I...
No,
I wouldn't.
No.
We'll talk more about the taxes in just a little bit. You will get whacked hard.
Well, if you don't do things correctly, yes, you absolutely will.
Yes. And you have to understand that people will suddenly be interested in you. People will be coming out of the woodwork. You will owe them something.
Yeah.
They'll probably try to manipulate and lie.
Yep.
And they'll be really good at it.
And they're really good at it. And, again, the same example I would give is as I started a business with nothing, then people sort of, I don't know, somehow the word got out that this guy spends money on marketing. Right? And so, I had everybody come to me, and I'm just such a nice guy. And I'm like, oh my God, I was I was a sucker for so much stuff. Oh yeah, this, and they were like, oh yeah, we'll build you this website, and it's going to do this. I've listened to every expert, and that's why we do podcasts now as opposed to all these experts out there, because you're just it's so hard. If you're an honest person, if you have integrity, your bias is that other people are that way.
Yeah.
And you couldn't possibly believe, because I was like, no, this guy wouldn't lie to me because it's not in his best interest to lie to me because he's going to want a long-term relationship where he can make more money. Not true. He might just be looking for a check for you today and see you later. That's his victory. He's moving on.
Yes.
That's the way a lot of people are. They just are looking for that money today, and they don't care about you. They just want that check, and they're going to look like they care for you. So that's really something you want to be on the guard for. And I would say, you just got to say, this might be something you don't have all the experience with. And as we talk about some of the things you would want to do to protect yourself later, just be aware that, and you are a human being, and you will make mistakes. And people are looking to exploit you.
And it's hard to remain anonymous. I mean, that's some of our advice is try to remain anonymous.
Yeah.
But there's only 5 states that currently permit winners to claim a ticket anonymously without questions. Certain state lottery commissions will not release the winnings until a press conference is completed.
know.
I
It's
guess
like they got to pay you for the press release. I mean, I don't want that. I just want my money.
Yeah.
I mean, what happens if you're in the hospital, right? What if What if you're disabled? What are they going to do? They going to wheel you in there?
Maybe.
You know, like,
that would be a
here's
really
the
good press release.
Right, here
Somebody
it is.
in a wheelchair
I'm so
winning
happy
the lottery.
I won the lottery. Right.
One thing that we really focused on when we started talking about this is you want to start creating wealthy habits because you probably don't have wealthy habits. And we're not trying to be a jerk.
Right.
But we're just saying you're not used to having this much money.
Right.
So you're not used to having the right habits.
Yeah, and in our experience, we represent a lot of wealthy clients, and we represent those ones who sort of get it overnight, and the ones who have worked, their life to become wealthy. And then, the ones, we've had people who've had those habits to become wealthy, and then maybe they have a big IRS problem that sort of wipes them out. I'm going to tell you something. That person's going to be back wealthy in 5 years. I know that. And how do I know that? It's because they have wealthy habits. And when you know it, yep, they pick themselves up. Whatever thing was, whatever weird thing was thrown at them, they're just like, whatever, I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. I'm just going to move on to this different project here and, get everything back. Whereas people who, and I have represented lottery winners who got into tax problems. And it's interesting. I would say it's really interesting because, it's like, how does someone win millions of dollars and now owe the IRS millions of dollars? Shouldn't those lottery winnings paid for it? And there's the 25% withholding. So, well, okay, maybe you owe something, but not that much. And it happens again because it's your wealthy habit isn't there. People get this money and now it's sort of, they're fulfilling a drug and they're spending and they're being generous. They're giving. Now they're not quite budgeting and they don't know exactly what kind of house they could afford. And then they want an advance, and some people want, and this is another reason why I don't like the annuity, because if you ever change your mind on that annuity, you're likely going to take a really huge cut. I had a client who took an annuity because the money she was flying through too quick. So her solution was to cash in her annuity so she could pay a little bit more and sort of sustain a lifestyle that wasn't sustainable. She needed to make this, she needed to dial down her spending, which still would have been, plenty. She needed to get a budget, but she didn't. So it was like, I'll just cash in my annuity. Well, she paid an effective interest rate of 12% when she cashed an annuity. And I'm like, that was a great deal for whoever bought it, because where do you get a rate of return of 12% that's essentially pretty much guaranteed, not completely, but a guaranteed rate of return on a secured interest for 12%? That's amazing. I think most people would take that deal running away. So she took a hit, and now she's hit with the taxes too, and that's sort of how she got in the problem. And it was because really the root of the problem, she was spending too much money, didn't want to make the change, and she had a misconception of what her money could actually do. So here's somebody, right? And it's a hard case with the IRS. There's not that much sympathy. You're trying to come up with some sort of settlement. I'm like, they're probably not really willing to take an offer and compromise here. You sort of do have that mansion there that
cars.
You can't afford. And it's like, I know you can't afford it. That's what, they're saying, well, I can't afford this. I can't afford to pay the IRS. Well, if you didn't have that mansion and that lifestyle, you kind of could have. So this is not going to work out. You're not going to get off with a deal with the IRS. And anyone with the IRS it's just, they're not going to have a lot of sympathy. They're looking at their own paycheck. They know they get $60,000 a year or whatever it is. And, to them, again, because they don't know what it's like to have large sums of money, to them, oh, you should be able to do anything you want. And they don't know how all these little things in life sort of add up until they lead you down a disaster. And I think that's really how it happens. It's just all these little things sort of push you over the edge.
It's funny, as you get and make more money, you think, oh, I'll save it or I'll do something. But it's amazing. Every time you start to make a little more money, you're like, oh, well, I did want that to buy that thing. And I could see where it could easily get out of control, where you just buy all the things. And then in that lifestyle, now what I thought you brought up was interesting is you suddenly start to live a different way. You've got the house and the car, so now don't you maybe need some Botox and maybe some personal training?
Those are...
The really good wine when you go to dinner, and you go to dinner a lot.
Dinners, and you're always the one picking up the tab.
Oh, for sure.
You're always the one. So you're not going to get out of a lunch for less than a couple $100. You're probably moving to some place that has better shopping, and you're going to find out there's going to be one person in your family who really likes to shop. That person could be you, and you can really, running up, $10,000, $20,000 a month is, quite easily. And just to give people an idea, I would say, if you of what to expect, you can increase your spending by effectively. If you win $1 million, I would say you're going to limit. That's really going to only affect you, like you get an extra $20,000 a year after everything, if you want that money to grow.
Yeah.
So that's really like, okay, well, all right, that's a nice vacation. I mean, great, all right, wonderful. Because $1 million, if you got a 6% return. That would be $60,000. If you did one of the things we would recommend where you don't pay taxes on it, you get that $60,000. If you do have to pay taxes on it, you're really left with $40,000. Well, you can't take all the $40,000 because there'll be nothing left. So you need to invest that other $20,000. That's what we're saying, $20,000 a year. So wait, $1 million, $20,000 a year? You see what we're talking about? So it's the same thing. So $10 million, $200,000 a year. Like, okay, so I won $10 million. I could live like somebody who's got, a couple who's got 2 good jobs.
Yeah.
All right. What are their lives like? Well, they have a nice house and they might have a pool. And instead of a Nissan, they might have a BMW. Okay. So now, all right. So you see where you have to get up and how it really is. And
wow.
so, $200,000 a month, you're not, do these people pay for everybody's lunch? No. They're just, that's
$200,000 a year.
$200,000 a year. Right. $200,000 a year. You're talking about, in Connecticut and a lot of high class, that's middle class. And if you're in New York, Manhattan, you're poor, man.
You got a tiny little apartment.
Right. Yeah, you're hanging in there by a thread. So that's some of the things you have to look at. It's like, yes, that's a lot of money up front, but when you break it down to what you're going to have, what your monthly budget should be, kind of think of those rules of what you should be spending on. So $10 million, $200,000 or $200,000 a year. Something like $20,000 a month to spend, $18,000, $20,000. And as you go up, and it depends on how aggressive you want to be. If you want to deplete, if you're looking to leave anything behind, if you're looking to reinvest, or you're just like, well, look, I don't care about heirs. I don't really care about the principal. If you're older in life, you don't really need your money to last you all that long. Okay, you can increase it. But that's I think that's an alarming number. That it's really only that. Wait, $10 million only gets you an upper middle class lifestyle?
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So taking action, something you said twice now that really caught my ear was budget. I think when people win the lottery, they throw a budget out the window. They because they have all the money in the world. So come up with a budget.
Yeah.
You could potentially make mistakes that can ruin you.
Yep.
You don't think so because you have all this money, but now it's big money. You're talking big mistakes.
Right.
And you're going to get taxed a lot.
Yep.
Right off the bat.
If you don't, right. You'll be withheld at 25%.
Yes, the 25% federal, and then state varies.
Right. But if you do some nice tax planning, there's ways to get that money back. If you do some there's some elaborate things. We're not going to get into those today, but there are things you could absolutely do to drastically reduce your tax liability forever. And now hopefully people are seeing that really, because it's not your monthly amount isn't what you think it is. You really don't want to pay a lot in taxes because it's really not getting what you need to get every dollar to work.
Yep.
Just because you got it all, you got this all, for a small amount doesn't mean you shouldn't take care of it. You shouldn't be reckless with it.
Okay, so first question people generally ask when they win the lottery is, should I take lump sum or the payments?
Yeah. And my answer to that is likely a lump sum. And the reasons why is because from a planning strategy, that I would want to fund the things that we're going to do. We're going to want to fund a trust. If we're going to do some elaborate planning, it's a little easier with that lump sum to do it once and do it right.
Right.
Okay, because with an annuity, it's a little bit more complicated, and if you mess one year up, it could have consequences. I would say it's a pretty well secure. The annuity is pretty well secured, but in Connecticut, I believe the lottery is a private company now, and I'd be a little wary because, and also the other thing is we don't know what future tax rates are going to be. And you could avoid any risk of future tax risk by putting something into a tax-free investment. That doesn't matter. Tax rates could go up to 100%. You don't care. You're not taxable. So that's really why I would want the annuity, so I can take immediate control and get it done right and get it done once instead of having this ongoing thing. And then also, you won't have the risk is that our client did of like, well, I need the money now.
Okay.
And then take a 12% cut. That's just really, really hard. So I think you get a better control. Now, I think I want to back up on one thing here.
Okay.
If you win the lotto, you are sort of rewarded for making a wrong decision, okay? Because the odds are against you. The odds are not fair. These lotteries, the states make a lot of money on it because they give you crappy odds. And so, but you have to understand, it's like if you win, you're going to feel special, and you are special, okay? You're going to feel like, okay, I have special powers because I won. Now, you could have won just simply random tangent, but the other thing that's just strange is there are people who are really good at numbers. They're really good at picking numbers, and it's weird. I was telling you earlier about the dream I had when I was 15 years old. I had a dream about the lottery. I had 4 numbers I had in my dream. Didn't show me the last 2. I went, bought the ticket illegally. My 4 numbers came up right, but I was angry because I didn't have the last 2. And at no point did I say, well, that was kind of odd because you never play the lotto. This is the one time you do it. And the 4 numbers you got in your dream were right there, won $44. And so I was like, that was crazy. I'm like, and then never had another one. Never had another.
If you have another one, you have
never
to tell
had
me.
another one. And then I have we have a lot of clients who do gamble a bit. And I met one guy. This is my dad and I. This is at our old office, our first office. My dad and I were there. And he called me next day. Hey, he goes, hey, thanks. Just want to let you know, thanks for meeting you. I'm like, oh yeah, great. He goes, yeah. So thanks to you, I won last night. I'm like, what? He goes, oh, I played your numbers. I'm like, what numbers? He goes, we played our address at the time, 401, and then the last 4 of our phone number, 6699. 6699 ended up winning. So he's like, yeah, thanks. I was like, okay. And I'm like, what? He goes, oh yeah, no. And then we looked. We're looking at his tax returns. This guy is beating the odds incredibly.
Wow.
And he gambles so much, the law of averages should send him back down. But consistently, this guy is well above. So I don't know. There's, scientific mind says, no, it's just, random chance. Some people are going to do statistically better.
Yes.
But I don't know.
And
I don't know.
We mentioned that, people that win the lottery sometimes will lose their money because they continue to gamble.
Yeah.
You can still gamble.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things you want to, even it sounds silly, but work gambling into your budget. You want to create a cap of how much you're going to spend.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we do know some people. I mean, it's one of the things lottery winners oftentimes do end up filing bankruptcy. It's because, there wasn't, that if you think about the habits that got you this money, the habit was gambling a lot. The habit was taking risks, that weren't good risks. Now, of course, it worked, and I get it. I worked, but you need to say, wait a second, okay. Just say, even if you did pick the numbers, just say I was lucky. Just say it. You're better off just saying, you know what, I was lucky. So you know what, I'm gonna try to play the odds that are in my favor now.
Yep.
Okay, because I got lucky with odds against me. Now I'm going to play with the odds in favor of me.
Okay, so they're going to create a budget. Number 2, you say create a trust for asset protection and protection from yourself.
Yeah. A trust is, not everybody knows what a trust is, and a trust is can be really helpful. You could create a trust. There's 2 types. You could create a trust that, hey, just hold on to my money for me, and I want you to do this. If I don't like what you're doing, I'm going to take anything back. Okay, and that's a revocable trust. Okay, now that's sometimes you want to do that, but what happens there? That's not going to help you out too much because you have still complete control over it. Anybody suing you can get to that money. So it doesn't really help you for asset protection. So if you want asset protection, this is sort of the trade-off. Whenever you're looking for asset protection or reduction in taxes, substantial reduction in taxes, there's going to have to be a little control over the money you have to give up. You can't get everything. There has to be a trade-off, and this is the trade-off. So if you put money in a trust, you're able to appoint the trustee, and you say, hey, trustee, I want you to have this money. You're supposed to spend this money. on my health and well-being, and to maintain this house and to maintain this lifestyle. And if you make it an irrevocable trust, now creditors can't come and sue it can't sue the trust. What they can do is sue any distributions coming out, but your trustee just says, nope, nothing today, nothing today. So it's a really great way. And that's one of the keys to asset preservation, because the second you have money, you're the target for lawsuits. You got to, and so many times there's really simple cases. And just because someone is bringing a harassing lawsuit that has no merit doesn't mean they won't win. Mm-hmm. I have been part of lawsuits people had no business winning that they've won. And even if you win, you still lost because you had to hire an attorney to defend this whole thing and up nights worrying about losing your whole thing. So you got to get some asset protection, and an irrevocable trust is part of that. Now, the other half of that is kind of the nice thing when you do a trust. Mm-hmm. You also are sort of giving up this control. So it's like, well, if you're giving up this control, why don't you go all the way? Because there's another benefit when you give up some control. And that is you can get into something as we call it, and this is an odd concept, but if you're looking to avoid taxes, there's not too many ways you can do it. Going overseas, that is not going to do it. Yeah, it just doesn't work. There's really not anything there. So don't go into those people like get a foreign asset protection trust. First of all, you can be sued on it anyway. Mm-hmm. Second of all, you're creating a real nightmare with the IRS that could be wrong. Most people do it wrong. Third, there's complexity that you don't need. You can have it here. Mm-hmm. And then fourth, where's the tax savings? You're not going to find it. It's just not there. So you can do everything domestically, and what you put it into is a life insurance policy that's specifically designed for you. And now people are like, well, I don't want life insurance. I'll be dead. Well, this is the thing. Your death benefit the IRS gives you is tax-free. Mm-hmm. It's like one of the only things in the world is actually tax-free, and the insurance lobby is huge. And also, I think it's one of these things where, the IRS doesn't want to kick, the old lady who just lost her husband out of her house because she didn't pay the bill on the insurance. So it's something that's tax-free. So what you're doing, you put in a life insurance policy, then your monthly income you're taking as a loan from the death benefit, which is tax-free. You pay back the loan when you die. Everyone's whole. So there it is. That's sort of the basic outline. I hope people understand it. So that's really a great way to get the money, get the right amount of control away from you so you can't hurt yourself. Mm-hmm. And also to protect your assets, and also to protect your assets from the IRS. That's going to come back again and again. It could change anything at any time. They always can put another surtax on. Here's a special tax for lottery winners. That it's going to be 60% plus the extra Medicare.
$10,000 penalty.
Yeah. So that's really, you want to have, one of the keys to success is being able to predict what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. If you don't know what's going to happen, it's hard to make the right call. So that's really why I would say you want to take that lump sum, get into trust. If you are comfortable with, if saving taxes is a priority of yours, and there's other ways to do it. They're not going to have the same tax savings. Yep. If you're not really uncomfortable with life insurance, there are still other things you can do to lower it. But that is that's my personal favorite. It's my favorite. Yeah.
So we're saying after you sign your ticket and hide your ticket and do all that stuff, you want to hire representation, and we're not just saying that because we're attorneys, but it's the smart thing to do. Yeah. You want to create a budget. Get the trust, and then work on with your attorney. Make sure they're maybe tax specific, because there are different ways. The PPLI that you mentioned, we can put a link.
That's a private placement life insurance. That's a life insurance designed specifically for you. And then maybe you have some specific ideas of how you want to invest. You don't want to be making all those calls yourself. You're going to want some people who've been through this. And I think this is really one of the understated stories, is that, the financial industry, I don't think gets the credit that it deserves, because some of these guys just work so hard and care so much about their clients. Mm-hmm. There's so many great guys out there, great and girls too, women,
ladies.
There's just fantastic people out there who can really help you, and they really want you to succeed. They really feel great when their clients succeed, and are absolutely torn when somebody does something wrong, doesn't follow their advice, and does something wrong. I see it happen all the time. Mm-hmm. I could see these, I've seen a lot of things go wrong, and I'm trying to advise someone like, you really don't want to do that. And then, when it happens, there's no, see, I told you so. I just, it's like, I wish I was better at convincing you. That's all I think. It's like, God, I wish I was better at making you see the light. Then I just said, okay, I guess you had to go down that path. That's all I can do.
Now let's fix it again.
Right. I guess, I wish you didn't do that. That's all.
All right. Well, awesome advice, Anthony. Thank you. And thanks for listening. Thanks for joining Parental Advisory, hosted by Anthony Parent, produced by Claudine Gindel, that's me, and engineered by Chris Chen. For more podcasts, visit our website at parentaladvisoryshow.com, and you can like us on Facebook to submit story ideas. We'd like to thank our sponsors, IRSMedic, the law offices of Parent & Parent, LLP, real tax attorneys for tough tax problems.